So right now there is a large debate happening online when it comes to large video game websites and their review process and review scores, and if there is something nefarious potentially happening behind the scenes with this. Now, this is a conversation that we've touched on before in the past, but I figure right now it's as hot as it's ever been, so I'm going to share my 2 cents on it. I have someone who has been involved in video game reviews from either a website perspective or a video perspective on YouTube for over 12 years now, so I'm a little bit seasoned, I'm a little bit around the block, and I could share my thoughts and my experiences with this sort of thing. So I want to talk about this from all sorts of aspects and see if we can potentially figure out like what is going on here. So a lot of this is being spurned on, unfortunately, by a game that I don't care about, a franchise that I don't care about. Dragon Age, the new Dragon Age game, of course, ended up getting its reviews earlier this week, and there seems to be lots of questions happening around with why these reviews seem to be so high. Now, like I said, I don't know anything about Dragon Age. I've never played a Dragon Age game. I don't ever plan to play a Dragon Age game because it's not my cup of tea. But it seems like the game itself is more of a catalyst for the conversation and the review process, because there has been some things happening leading up to Dragon Age's reviews that were definitely a little bit questionable. I know there was a large YouTube channel. They have like over 1 million subscribers. Dragon Age style games are like their bread and butter. They've actually worked with BioWare to restore their forums and stuff before in the past. They've had a direct line of communication with EA for a very long time. They did a preview event where they raised some questions that they were invited to this preview event. And then after their preview, which was honestly, it wasn't a hardcore. It wasn't like, oh, this game sucks or whatever. Like, they just kind of had a few questions and concerns leading up to the release of the game and things that they thought could be ironed out. They then were completely cut off from access. EA stopped talking to them. BioWare stopped talking to them. And like everyone involved stopped talking to them. And it's like, well, wait a minute. These people literally saved your forums. These people have literally worked with you before, and now you just cut off all direct communications right after they make a preview video for an event that you invited them out to. And then, of course, the scores for this game came out, and, I can't say much about the scores. I can't say much about how the game is reviewing. I've seen people online that seem to be really into it. I've seen people online that say that this is a disgrace to the Dragon Age franchise. I can't really talk about that. But what I can talk about is kind of the other side of the coin with this, and the control and distribution of review copies for video games, because that seems to be a bit more of a hotter topic. And I actually saw this tweet from Switch Up, who are good lads. Go follow their YouTube channel. They do very good work over there. And this is what kind of caught my eye and got me, wanting to talk about this. Have been saying this for years now. They're literally using the same words across all these different platforms with supposedly different reviewers. The whole thing is corrupt. No surprise that they get early codes for everything. And this is based on a tweet that was done based on a Reddit post that someone made on Asmongold's Reddit. I don't care. I don't like Asmongold. I don't watch him. I kind of think he's a weird dude, to be honest with you. Like, bro, man to man, like, you got a lot of money. All right. You could like hire a maid and she can come and clean your house, and you ain't gotta worry about that. You ain't got to worry about that, partner. Maybe look into that. But game reviewers are all saying the same thing because they're all owned by the same company, Ziff Davis Media. Ziff Davis Media owns Eurogamer, Extreme Tech, GamesIndustry.biz, IGN, PC Mag, Rock Paper Shotgun, VG247, of which IGN also owns, because we talked about this a couple of months ago when this initially happened, when IGN bought up a bunch of sites, and I said, hey, that's a red flag. IGN also owns Outside Xbox, Digital Foundry, Hookshot, of which Hookshot owns Nintendo Life, Push Square, Pure Xbox, Time Extension. When you really start digging, there's only 2 to 3 voices in media. It's just 3 people owning all the companies telling you the same thing with different faces. These are the lords of the media, and you will listen to what they say, what they want you to hear. You have no alternatives. If there are, they will just buy it, and everyone has a price. So this has obviously been a very hot topic here. And I feel like I can add quite a bit of insight into this portion of it because, think about it from a perspective of this. When you have one company or one or two companies or whatever the case may be that controls the flow of information, especially with stuff that people are interested in, you end up getting narratives with it. Like, think about your local news channel that's only applicable to your area that you live in. Are there personalities on there? Are there hot takes given on there? No, it's literally the news of what is happening in your area. But once you get into the larger news channels that are dedicated news channels for worldwide distribution, everyone has their own slant. Everyone has their own personalities. Everyone has their own take, and they control the flow of information because they are the ones distributing the information, and people just lap it up. And when you look into like the entertainment industry and see who owns what, like there are, companies and individuals that own large portions of it that you think something is different, but in actuality, it's not. And when you apply that into video games, it's a very interesting thing because I don't always think that this was the case. When you go back to older video game reviews, things like EGM and GamePro, Next Generation, all that sort of stuff, people might want to bring up, well, is that the case with those things? Have we been fooled the whole time? But I don't think you have, because when you look at the video game industry in the 90s, it was kind of, on the rise. The money was there. There was money there, but it wasn't like it was today. You didn't have things like shareholders and investors and outside forces and stuff like that. You didn't have, games that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. You didn't really start to see that until Shenmue, which was like over $100 million. And like, did that impact the reviews? Like, no, like that people liked Shenmue. Some people didn't like Shenmue. I don't understand how you don't like Shenmue. It was groundbreaking. But the video game industry was much more, I don't want to say innocent, but I do think that is a good word to use here because it wasn't as predatory. Like it just wasn't. There wasn't, hundreds of millions of dollars, shareholders to appease and all of this sort of stuff. Whereas when you look at the industry now, it is a very different beast. And if a company is making a game, they want to make sure, especially a big title, they probably want to make sure that the review process is a very seamless thing and is something that people seem to like more than dislike. And I mean, on the surface level, that does make sense. What do you expect? You don't make a game, you don't make a game for people to not like it. You want the game to be successful. You want people to play and buy your game. I mean, that just makes perfect sense. But you also have to factor in the distribution of who gets to play the game early. And I think that's where we get a lot of red flags with this because of people that essentially are the PR people for these video game companies that distribute codes to people to have early access to these games and how they are picked and how they are chosen. Because if we're going by just size and merits alone, like you see a lot of people who end up getting review copies of games and you're kind of like, well, how did this person get it? Like this person got it, but this larger YouTube channel, this larger website didn't get it. And you get a lot of questions with that. So what ends up happening is that, do people get blackballed from these companies? 100%. 100% they do. You get a line of communication with someone, and then all of a sudden, you don't hear from them ever again. Is it something you did? Is it something they did? It's probably something you did. We actually talked about this on, we were playing Call of Duty the other night. It was myself, MVG, Nate the Hate, and John. And we were just talking about reviews and, people getting early access to games and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, why aren't we getting early access when other people are that are, they have smaller channels or they have smaller voices or nobody watches their stuff. And, there's individuals that have like large Twitter followings, but nobody actually watches their content. Nobody listens to their podcast. Nobody really cares what they have to say outside of Twitter. Why are they getting all the pomp and circumstance and we're not? And John was like, yeah, I wonder why, pal. And I was like, oh, I probably don't help that situation. I am a very outspoken person, okay? I'm always going to be that way, and nothing is ever going to change that. I've told you guys, if I burn a bridge, I burn a bridge. I don't really care. This to me is business. This is not friendship. I'm not here to make friends with people. I'm here to run my business, and my business is RGT85. And if a company looks at what I do and what I say and they're like, oh, well, this isn't good for business, that's their prerogative. But we have seen companies caught in 4K, such as PlayStation. Remember when the PlayStation PR guy was attacking me from the PR of Europe and saying, why do people follow him? We need to deplatform this guy during my whole thing about talking about interesting individuals and, the Sweet Baby Inc. debacle and stuff like that. Like, that person obviously has ties to the end. They literally are the people who distribute codes. And so maybe that's why. I don't get review copies often at all, but I don't really care. In the same breath, I don't really care because of the fact that, I feel like I've cultivated an audience that would appreciate what I do and what I say more so than just getting early access to something to, be generic and be, tiptoeing the line and, oh, is it good? Is it bad? Oh, mostly good and stuff like that. Like, I feel like my honesty and just brutal honesty in some circumstances is what has gotten me an audience. And I'm not going to, turn my back on that just to get early access to things. But to bring everything back full circle, early access is extremely important. Now, that's not to say that I wouldn't like early access to things, because we go back to the business perspective. When you get early access to a game, think about it like this. If you're one of the first people to review that game, you get the views on your website. You get the views on your YouTube channel if you're not a complete boob and you know how to market yourself and, get your information out there. You come up in search algorithms. It is a lucrative thing to be kind to these companies, to be kind to the don't bite the hand that feeds you sort of situation. And when you look at the pecking order of things and, going back, we look at how Ziff Davis Media has their hands in many of the big websites. And people are going to say, well, there's other websites out there. There's other, content creators and stuff like that. Like, who cares about the websites? These are some of the most prominent voices in the industry. They are the ones high up in the search algorithms. They are the ones that if you type in, Sonic Review, is Joe Schmo's website going to pop up into Google? Or is IGN, or is, Eurogamer? Like, obviously, the bigger, more established websites that get people in there are the ones that are going to pop up higher on the algorithm. So I guess I say everything I just said, which was completely all over the place, to say, is there some sort of conspiracy going on right now? Is there some sort of misinformation, potential distrust, potential, recycling reviews throughout the different websites that you own? I don't think there's a definitive answer. I think you just have to look for things and really make it up with your own opinion. I still believe that there is a video game reviewer cabal. I mean, it's the same fucking people at all these events. They're all friends with each other. And if one person kind of questions what they're doing, even if they're friends with that person, even if they're cool with that person, they will call that person out for the greater good of the cabal. I've seen it. I've been that person. And it's fine. I don't care. I find it funny to me that you could just stop messing with someone because they said something about somebody else or they questioned what somebody else had to say, and you're all of a sudden the villain. Think of how many different people within this industry attacked me for some of my stuff that I was saying over the summer. And for what? And was I wrong? Was I inherently wrong with what I was talking about? I'm just asking questions here, people. I'm not your martyr. I'm not going to die on the cross for you. But what I am going to do is I'm always going to say what I want to say. I'm always going to do what I want to do. And you know what? One more thing. One more thing that I definitely want to touch on really quick, because I feel like someone's going to bring this up. But I want to bring up, why is there never any sponsored content on any of these websites? YouTube, you get sponsored videos. I have done sponsored videos. And a sponsored video, to me, is just, hey, this is a game that's coming out. I'm going to talk about some of the mechanics of it. You can look at the game and decide for yourself whether or not this is a game that interests you. If you want to play it, great. If you don't want to play it, great. That's fine. They are simply paying me to raise awareness of said game. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And I think 99% of people will agree with that. The 1% are the people who say, YouTube isn't a job. Okay, pal. But why do you never see that with video game websites? Well, you never see any sponsored content on a video game website itself. Why is that? Is there sponsored content happening and they're just not disclosing that? I don't know. I'm just asking questions because I find it weird that stinky old RGT would get companies in his inbox every single day trying to do sponsored videos and sponsored ad spots and stuff like that. But none of these websites get any of that? None of them? They have YouTube channels. They have personalities. They have articles. Maybe they're just not disclosing some of that information. I'll leave it up to you to decide, though. What do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. It went way longer than I thought it was going to, but I guess I had a lot to say about the situation. And if I burn some more bridges, so be it. I don't care. I'll live on an island by myself. John can take a boat and deliver me food because I don't know, as much shit as I give him, he probably would never turn his back on me. I guess that's a friend. That's okay, though. Nobody's watching to the end of this video, so he'll never hear that. And as always, guys, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.